already see it starting to go. I see it already starting to go. Lots of people are engaging, but if you could go ahead and let us know where you're calling in from, and if you have a specific job or industry that you are targeting, if you could go ahead and drop that in the chat as well. Good morning, Sandra and Sandra. Sandra and Sandra back to back, Dave, Jason, Rachel, you guys are awesome. Good morning. We have people calling in from all over the place. Virginia Beach, love it. Hi, Jerry. And we are live streaming today, and we are also recording. And so you will be able to go back and look at this call at a later date as well. So again, good morning, and we encourage you to be engaging in the chat all morning. Also, a couple technical things real quick. If you could, you can change your name if you'd like. So over by your picture, there are 3 drop-down options, and you can go ahead and choose rename and make sure your name is in your picture so we know who you are. And then when you drop in the chat, we would love to be able to see your name instead of just a handle. All right, so a little bit about Career Connectors. Sorry, Brie, I'm kind of all over the place on the slides. We are all about building a better community. And so we know great communities are built on people who have great jobs. And so it's one career at a time. And we do that by bringing you content and resources and information that you can utilize in your career, whether you are actively looking right now, or you're in the place where you're just kind of figuring it out. You know, am I in the right career? Am I doing what I am called to do? Or am I in a career that's bringing in enough money so I can invest and retire in the time frame I want, if that's your goal? But that is what we're here for, to help you make those steps. All right, good job on the chat, you guys. Stacy from Mesa. Hi, someone, Hutut Zar. I'm sorry if I'm saying that's wrong. Mount Vernon, Ohio. I'm originally from Ohio as well. I know exactly where Mount Vernon is. We played them in high school in sports. So again, it's all about making connections, you guys. As this chat is going on, feel free to connect with people in a one-on-one format. You can direct message them. You can also ask questions. So during the call today, you're going to hear a lot of guidance on resumes. And then we're also going to do a piece today on LinkedIn. And so you're going to have you may have a lot of questions, and go ahead and drop those in the chat. And if we can get to them, if we will, if we can't, then we'll, our resume writers and LinkedIn coaches today will be responding to them in the chat, and also in the breakout rooms at the end. So, okay, so back to the tech stuff. If you want to display so you can see the speakers, the way that they're, you know, when they're speaking, you can see their faces. If you go up to view and you do the speaker view, that's where you'll see the best view for today. And then at the end, we're also going to do breakout sessions. Something else I'm going to encourage you to do, and you're going to want to have this on hand anyway when we get to the LinkedIn section, I'm going to encourage you to drop in your LinkedIn URL. And so the way to do that, and I'll also write these instructions up in a little bit, but the way you do that is to go to your LinkedIn profile. And when you type LinkedIn or open it up, wherever you see your picture, if you just click on that, that gets you right to your profile. And so that URL that's in the top search bar, if you copy that and you drop it in the chat, I'm going to drop mine right now. Drop it in the chat, it'll turn blue. Thank you, Stacy. Just like that, it'll turn blue. And if it's blue, that means it's clickable. And when it's clickable, then we can click on each other's LinkedIn profile and connect. And so we're not in person today, we're live, but we're not in person. And so this is a way that we can connect with each other, even though we're not in person today. So thanks, Donna. Thanks, Jane. Go ahead and drop your LinkedIn URLs right in the chat. You can do that throughout the day. And then it's always so fun to connect with so many new people when we have these events every month. We do offer the closed captioning. So if you would like to do closed captioning, then on the bottom of your screen, if you're on your computer, there's an option that says live transcript. Just click on that, and then you will be able to see the closed captioning today. All right, you guys, we have a great event today. I'm so glad you are here. You chose the right event. It's all about resumes. This is the #1 question we get. I've been running this program for 13 years. I founded this program right in the recession of 2008 and 2009. And the very first question we got was, what do I do about my resume? How do I write a resume? And that question has not stopped over the 13 years. And so everyone has guidance for resumes. Everyone offers something up about resumes. And so the reality is it's not always the good advice. And so what we have decided to do is go find the people that do have the advice. And so I have invited them here today. So that'll be the Red Hot Resume panel. And then we brought in Mr. Link Me In himself, Ted Robison, and he's going to show the 5 best LinkedIn practices to stand out. And so both resumes and LinkedIn can both be overwhelming, especially if you haven't done it for a long time. You're just kind of getting back into it, trying to figure it out. Both can be overwhelming. And so we're here to show you that it doesn't have to be. And we're going to show, they're going to walk you through how to do some things on both resumes and LinkedIn so that you can stand out. And then around 10:20 or so, I will go ahead and give you some additional resources at the end. But then make sure you don't jump off, because we are going into breakout sessions. And what that means is all of the experts that are on the call, plus we have some additional resources that are going to jump on during the breakout sessions. And actually are already on the call. So they're going to be answering questions in the chat as well. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat because they're watching. But we're going to have LinkedIn coaches. We're going to have the financial coach, career coaches, and then our professional resume writers are going to be in here. So you're going to have plenty of capability to be able to connect with somebody and get some support today. All right. I am so excited to introduce you guys to 3 of the best. And I have referred them out to probably hundreds of people. They've been supporting Career Connectors for many years. I think Donna is probably our first volunteer we've ever even had. And so she has been with me the whole time. And she has brought in others, Brenda and Lori, and you guys, they're phenomenal. They know what they're talking about. And so, Bree, you can go ahead and move the view. We're gonna, I think if there's speaker view available, but so that you can see our faces. But I would like to introduce all of you today to Brenda Cunningham, Donna Tucker, and Lori Norris. Welcome. Can we hear you? You can.
Hello.
Hello, ladies. I am so thrilled you guys are here. You guys are, I love you all. Like, you have supported Career Connectors and the people we serve for so many years. And whether we're in person, whether we're virtual, and the craziness of COVID, you guys were all there. I mean, just the whole time. So thank you. And the guidance you guys give to people is like nothing else, and it has helped so many people. So let's start this off with, I could go on all day about all 3 of you, but what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and each introduce yourselves. Take a couple minutes, tell us who you are, how long you've kind of been in this industry, and then end it with something fun, like the biggest mistake you've ever seen on a resume, if there's one you can think of. So, Lori, why don't you get us started today?
Well, good morning. My name is Lori Norris. I am the owner of Get Results Career Services. I've owned the business since 2004, but I've been teaching resume writing since 2003. That makes me seem really old, but that's okay. And so my specialty is helping military veterans during their transition out of the military into private sector employment. But I work with everybody from all specialties and at all levels. And let's see, the best, or I guess the best worst resume that I've ever seen, is that good grammar, Donna? I don't think so. Let's see, someone brought me their resume written on a napkin once. So that is absolutely the worst resume that I think I've ever received.
That's awesome. All right, thank you, Lori. All right, Donna.
I have been writing resumes for 34 years. When I started, we didn't even have computers. We started with a typewriter. Can you imagine now doing it that way? Oh, then the corrections. So it was a totally different world. And I've seen all the progressions, and it just, that's a big tip that I would give anybody who is first time looking for a resume, like in 20 years, is don't think about the resumes from 20 years ago, because it's not the same animal anymore. I'm the secretary of the National Resume Writers Association and a founding member of this organization that we belong to, the Resume Writers Council of Arizona. And I guess as far as mistakes, we've seen it all, but people spelling their own names wrong. It just which means people don't proofread. You've got to proofread.
That's right. That is exactly right. It's crazy. All right, Brenda, we love you. Welcome.
I love you back. I love all y'all. Hey, good morning. So listen, my company is called Push Career Management, a little bit different from Donna. I have not been doing this my whole life. I started my career as an engineer, for goodness sake. So I have a degree in electrical engineering, a certification in project management. It doesn't make sense. And I have made a pretty substantial transition over to help folks with their resumes, their job search, the whole 9 yards. And so I do speak tech. I love to work with technical people. I can't help it. One of the probably biggest mistakes, and this was recently, I saw a resume. I swear to you, I am not exaggerating. This person had about 20 different jobs, and each of those jobs this person held for about a month or 2 months. And I'm like, were they contracts? No. Why are you leaving jobs every month or 2 months for 20 different jobs over the years? And so this was like a red flag just waiting to happen. And so, yes, there are even strategies to help folks in these kind of most extreme circumstances. So have no fear. We're going to talk about it today.
That's right. We are going to talk about it today. I wonder if that's the lady I sent you.
No.
Because I just saw the same thing recently. Oh, that's awesome. All right, you guys, ladies, you know that lots of people have resume advice. When you're in career transition, the first thing you're like, oh my gosh, I got to pull my resume together. And somebody says, hey, I'll send you a template. Someone else says, let me look at it. And get rid of those accomplishments. They don't really mean anything. Just put your experience, they tell you all this stuff, and put every job you've ever had on there, for the history of time. So I know we love Aunt Jane and she's awesome, but she's not always right, even if she's hired a whole bunch of people. And so I want everyone to understand why we have chosen you guys. What does the Resume Writers Council of Arizona mean? What does it mean when you have a national certification? What is that? Why should we trust you guys today? Who's going to start?
We know what works.
Donna.
Yes.
We continually educate ourselves on what's happening in the industry, what's happening in other industries. And we know what recruiters are looking for, we know what HR professionals are looking for. We know how people read resumes and make sure that the resumes are going to work for you the way they should, that they're all about you and your employer.
And I'll kind of second that. Recently, probably in the last year, we've seen studies literally about reading patterns on a page.
Yes.
We've seen studies about all different sorts of bias that exists in the kind of the whole job search context, from unemployment bias, when you use that little green badge on your LinkedIn profile picture. Do you know that you are actually sending a signal out there to the world that just says, hey, nobody has hired me? And so be careful. There are very subtle messages that we may be inadvertently sending and you may not understand what's going on, but we are following actual data, talking to people who are conducting surveys and really, really digging deep into the information so that you don't have to.
That's right. What about Lori? You want to talk to us a little bit about like training that you guys are required or certification? What is that all about?
Well, the three of us are all members of both our local Resume Writers Council of Arizona, as well as the National Resume Writers Association. And so in the RWCA, we offer monthly training, and the NRWA offers, monthly webinars as well as access to continual education. And we have annual conferences. Can you imagine a conference full of resume writers? We all run around with our red pens and correct each other's grammar. It's so fun. We are such a blast. And so, but I know that, it can be really frustrating because you show your resume to 10 people and you get 15 opinions. And so resumes are as subjective as beauty. But the bottom line is what we're going to talk to you about today are the best practices that we've learned, because all of it combined, we're like a 100-year-old woman full of information, right? And we're going to bring you that knowledge of best practices. This isn't our opinion. This is what has been proven to work for us and our clients time and again.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah. And I love, something, Brenda, I've heard you say before is, if we're in pain or we have a stomach ache or we have the flu or we're sick, we go to the doctor, right? Like we expect for them to know something about what's going on, regardless of what we believe with our beliefs of natural therapies and things. Like the doctor has been through this medical training. They know they can at least help us get better if we're sick. And this, not that our candidates are sick, anyone online is sick, but in this case, we are going to the experts. They do this 24/7. This is their life, they're living, and they've been doing it for many, many, many years. And so when I say, Brenda, Donna, Lori, can you tell me look at this resume and it's not getting hits and why? They are the ones that know the why. And so that's why they're here. Thank you guys so much again for being here. All right, let's jump into it. We're going to talk about resume tools. And so first let's ask this. Why are there so many opinions? Why do people give that guidance on what a good opinion is or what a good resume looks like? Donna, what do you think?
Oh dear, just because there is no one right way. I noticed in looking at the chat, there's people here from HR, from IT, there are engineers, there's education, there's finance, and every one of their resumes is going to be different. You can't I don't believe you can pick a template and stick your information into it. It's got to be focused on where you're going, and that's number one. And then it has to sell you to the job. It's not a history of your personal job career. It's a marketing piece. It's a sales pitch. So there.
That's right. Good. Anything to add to that, Brenda?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned health. And so I do want to kind of talk about health for just a moment, because there was a point in time where I was dealing with some very severe pain in my life, and I didn't know what the problem was. And I was always sick all the time and nobody could give me answers. And so everybody I talked to meant very well. And they was, oh, you need to stop eating sugar. Oh, you need to cut out the bread. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, you need to do that. No, what I needed to do was go to a GI specialist and get a darn scope done. And she diagnosed me with an actual disease. So sometimes we have the kind of best of intentions and we are trying our best to help people, but we don't always know what the heck we're talking about. And so sometimes it is just really better to kind of lean on the expertise of people who do this thing for a living. And so, yes, like Donna said, there will always be kind of more than one way to write a resume, and it'll still kind of achieve similar results. But the bottom line is, look at the fruit of the person that you're talking to, right? Do they have a at least basic understanding of the elements of what a resume ought to contain? Do they really even know what they're talking about? Can they withstand any kind of scrutiny, any kind of pushback to this person? And so just be careful, right? People do genuinely mean well. That does not make them informed advisors.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. They're not informed advisors.
Yeah,
The
well
advisors,
said,
but
yeah.
they're not informed advisors.
That was my politically correct way of saying that. Okay.
That's right. That's right. All right, let's jump into some mechanics. I see a lot of people asking questions, and I believe we have Amanda Miller on the line too. So Amanda, she's an awesome resume writer as well. And so you may see her answering. Hi, Amanda. She answered in the chat. So she's really good at responding to people's questions. And so if you see an Amanda Miller responding to your question, know that she's legit. All right. Okay, let's talk mechanics format, because we're getting a lot of questions about that. What are the most important components to include on a resume? Lori, you want to start with this one? Yep.
Yeah, so the most important thing that your resume must have is a focus, is a target. It must be specific to an industry, a career level, to a job. And so we don't want to try to create a resume that is attempting to appeal to everyone, right? Because that ends up appealing to no one. So a focus and a target is absolutely the most important thing that it needs to include. So I'll leave it with that, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Can I just add something, Lori, before we move on? I have such a great example of that, you guys. So often we try to do everything and we actually do nothing because it like speaks. So my husband recently became a counselor, and when I tell people that, it's like, oh, great. But then when I say he counsels men, marriages, and teenage boys, they're like, oh my gosh, this person needs some help, this person. So same thing, like, what is the target? Thank you, Lori. Okay,
Yeah,
Brenda, go for
I
it.
just want to really quickly
Yeah.
add to that. Like, if you've ever been fishing in the ocean, right? And you go out to the Pacific Ocean and you go fishing and you have no idea what kind of fish you're going to catch, you're probably not going to come home with anything, right? You're going to come home and say, there are no fish in that ocean. And if you're coming out of the market, the job market that we're in, saying no one's hiring, it's likely that you're in that same situation and that you're fishing with the wrong bait, the wrong tackle, in the wrong place. And so you can liken that to your resume isn't focused, it doesn't contain the important relevant skills and experience. And you're going to say, well, no one's hiring. You just need to change the bait and tackle that you're using and the direction that you're going. So
good.
However, that doesn't mean an objective. We don't use those old, and this is where I was saying before about how resumes have changed in 20 years, 30 years. We used to use an objective, that seeking a challenging opportunity that will blah, blah, blah. No, but it does need a headline. And if you can change it every time to the title of the position you're applying for, it's going to be so much more effective. Think about how employers knowing that you are there, you are applying for their job, not just any job, but that's the one you want. And it's going to be much more effective. And then you're going to tell them the value you bring to that position, that opportunity, as well as what you've accomplished in your career that adds to that proves it.
Yeah, I will add, I saw somebody, when everybody was introducing themselves, somebody said they are transitioning into IT. And just like Jessica mentioned with her husband, like, oh, I'm a counselor. Okay, well, that doesn't mean anything to me by itself. But once you say, oh, I'm in IT, specifically, network security, or specifically cybersecurity, or specifically this, then it's like, oh, okay, such and so is hiring, or, here, let's make this connection to this other individual. And so a lot of times we are far too generic. We might have a sense of focus, but it's a very generic focus. And that it simply won't do. Y'all have to remember, my company's name is Push Career Management. Do you think that is an accident? I am talking to you today because I want you to win. I can't take it anymore to see people in longer than necessary job searches. It ends. This is not getting ready to happen on my watch. And so we can do some specific things. Donna talked about proving it. Proof. Stop telling me you're the greatest thing since sliced bread and start giving me some examples of what you have done that was excellent. So we can't just say I'm a goal-oriented, professional. Don't tell me that. Give me your actual key results that you have achieved over the course of your career. Some of the big hitters, right? Did you win awards and say you were award winning? Did you increase the productivity 35%? Say that. Don't just say I helped, I supported, I was responsible for that. That doesn't motivate me to call you. It doesn't. And I want you to give people ammunition to call you, to reach out to you, to say, I want to know more. And they're not doing that if you're giving them very, very weak morsels of information, like I was responsible for this and I'm goal-oriented. Good for you. So the heck what? And I want you to get very comfortable with answering the question, so what?
I love that. So you guys talked about a headline, you talked about work experience, but you said in work experience, it's really about, so what did you do with the jobs you had, the so what, right? So when you guys are thinking about what do I need to include on my resume, it's the headline, it's the experience, what else? Education, what else?
Absolutely. Education. How did you become good at the thing you're doing, right? Y'all are asking us, why should we listen to you as a resume writer? And we're like, because we go to conferences and we go to monthly development and we do this and we do that. And so these employers want to know the same thing of you. What have you done to demonstrate that you actually know what you're talking about? Did you take a class? Did you read a book? Say that.
And will add value to their organization, help their organization be more successful. If you can't help them make money, make customers happier, improve efficiency, whatever in their company, what do they need you for? They're just not looking to pay somebody money without results.
Because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
If you did it before for somebody else, then the odds are you can do it again, but this time it'll benefit me. And so now if you painted that picture well, now I can justify paying you $150,000 salary because you have proven to me that the work you're doing is worth that. If you just tell me, if you have bullet point answered phones, I have a 17-year-old daughter that can answer a darn phone and she'll do it for free. So why does that translate into me paying you a decent salary if all you're telling me are these basic minimal things that, think about it, if a 17-year-old could do it, come on now, for free, why should I pay you what you're asking for? Okay, give me something more. Tell me not just that you answer phones, but you did it 400 times and you documented notes in the CRM system and you resolved customer, grievances, and you did all of these things all at the same time. That's something that is worth some serious investment in you, not just you answering the phone.
And Brenda made a good point with those numbers. Get the numbers in there. It gives a resume credibility. Increase by a percentage, not just increased revenue, but how much did you increase revenues by? You increase productivity, give a number. If you don't have the exact numbers, you can kind of make them up by couching it with as much as or more than. And people know that they aren't the exact numbers, but you have to give them some idea. Don't make them try to guess.
And so, I just saw a comment come up in the chat. It's like, well, I would be making my numbers up. Well, I don't want you to pull them out of the blue and pull them out of the air, but you can back your way into numbers. You can say, well, I implemented a new filing system that allowed us to find the files for our customers faster. And I would say to you, okay, well, how long did it take before? And how long did it take after? So maybe we saved 15 minutes, but we went into that filing system 40 times a day. And 40 times 15 minutes faster is X number of hours times 5. That's how many it was a week, times 52. That's how many hours it was a year. And now we're in the thousands of hours saved. And so you can say an average of, or like Donna said, put a plus on the end, put up to. But what we're really trying to tell you is you've got to show us what makes you cost effective as an employee. You've got to demonstrate your return on investment. People hire you because they have a need to fill or a problem to solve. And your job in that resume is to present yourself as the resolution to their problems, as the fulfillment of their needs, and show that you're cost effective. And what you really have to do is take the focus off of yourself and put it on the employer. Your resume is not about you. Your LinkedIn, not about you. Your interview answers, not about you. You need to focus on the employer, on the employer's needs, on how you can add value to them, and you will blow the competition out of the water.
And to add to that, use the employer's language when you can. When you find those job announcements that you're applying to, read through it carefully, use their language, use their words. This is the key words that you hear about all the time. They come from the employer's announcements.
And I'll just add one more thing, just to go back to your original question. Like, what are some of the elements or things that need to be on the resume? So I'll just kind of give you some categories to think about as well. And so, of course, we talked about the target or the focus or what have you. We're in many cases using like a summary kind of overview of here's who I am, this is what I've done, this is what makes me special. But think about other things like professional development. Did you take courses, webinars? Did you attend conferences? Do you speak other languages? If you listen to me, if you speak Spanish in many parts of this country, do you know how valuable you are? That is an incredible gift. And so I would even venture to say, call yourself at the very top bilingual customer service representative, whatever it is that you're doing, but include also what software are you well versed in using that's relevant and pertinent to the work that you're doing. What awards have you won, if any? And don't worry, and even if you were just nominated, didn't win it, put that on there too. I put on there a degree that I started and didn't finish. Darn it, if you know how to outsmart some of these systems that you're competing with, then you can play this game a heck of a lot better. And so if you started let's say a bachelor's degree, you were a semester away from finishing and life got in the way, put that thing on your resume, because half the time they're simply looking for the word Bachelor of Science. And so put it on there, and then put your disclaimer, some coursework completed. So you're not telling a lie or anything like that. You're being very ethical, you're being very honest, but you're also outsmarting this system that is set up to defeat you. So we're going to get smarter about job search.
Absolutely. That's so good. Thank you, guys. And I think once people, and this is what I've seen over the last 13 years, once people shift their mind, realizing that the resume is not really about me, it's about who's reading it and the lens that they're reading it through. I mean, I wrote it in the chat. It can literally be life-changing because it can give you opportunities you wouldn't have ever thought about before. And so really thinking about targeting those resumes and writing them for the person reading them rather than about yourself. Marketing tool, marketing 101. Okay, let's talk mechanics. So you guys talk about the mechanical, like the components of the resume. How many number of pages? We hear 1 is what you're supposed to have.
Oh.
We hear 3, 5.
No.
Talk about font size, functional resumes versus traditional. Let's talk about all those. What you got?
Oh, man.
Lori? Oh, yeah, Lori's turn.
All right, let's tackle first. Here, I want to talk about the functional and the combination resume, because I'm really passionate about this subject, because a lot of people out there think that if they're making a shift or a pivot in their career, that the only option available to them is the combination or functional resume. And just in case you don't know what that is, a combination resume is one where you focus on your skills, and then there's a very small bit of chronology at the bottom. And the functional takes the dates and the chronology off all together. Neither of these are very friendly with the applicant tracking software. So the ATS, as we've all heard, is we want to make sure that our resume is compatible with that. And the functional and the combination resume are not compatible, and they're not easy to read. And so don't think that because I'm making a career change, I have to use this alternate format. You can still use a chronological or reverse chronological format to showcase the relevant skills and experience that you have in your past. And, you know, I think I've seen here when I'm changing careers, am I supposed to make things up? No, but you want to look at your background and say, okay, I used to be an aircraft maintenance technician. Now I want to go and be in IT. I've got all these certifications. What's relevant from aircraft maintenance to IT? I can do troubleshooting and fault diagnosis. I can follow technical instructions. I can communicate with my customer to diagnose an issue. But I'm not going to talk about maintaining an aircraft. I'm going to talk about all of those skills that I have that are relevant. So I just really wanted to touch on that format, and I'll turn it over to Donna and Brenda to talk about the other mechanics.
I'll talk about the header of the resume, the information header, where your name is. You want your name, no residence address, but on the resumes anymore. But you do want the city and state. And that often can eliminate you in applicant tracking if you do not put a city and state and zip on your resume, because that can be one of the qualifiers that's programmed in. You want your phone number, and they prefer a cell phone today. Well, that's another thing that's changed a lot. You had to label cell phone in the old days, but they assume it's going to be a cell phone. Your email address, and be very careful of that if you're still using Hotmail or AOL or even Yahoo. Get rid of it. You want to use Gmail is the preferred email address, and it just can label you as maybe not being very tech savvy if you're not using the most prevalent email. And your LinkedIn address, and make sure that you customize your URL. Yeah, Ted's going to talk about all this later, but the LinkedIn address is going to go on the resume header too. But make sure you customize that URL. Don't use the one with all the little funny numbers on it. And I see some people in the chat still have their LinkedIn addresses with all the numbers. Get rid of those. It's easy to fix. And that's the last thing about the header, is make sure it is not the formal header, the one where you go up to insert on Microsoft Word and make it a header. You can for this, you should for the second page, make that the formal header. But the first page should be part of the document, because we want the applicant tracking software to be able to read it. And they do not read headers and footers and tables and text boxes.
Donna, you said phone number. Why should they only include one phone number? Sometimes I see 2 or 3 listed.
Oh, it's just so confused. Make it easy for the reader. Which one do I pick? I just give up personally. Oh, it's dinner time. If I'm using a home phone number, maybe I'll interrupt them at dinner. You know, just think. Don't make anybody have to think. Make it easy.
Good.
Amen.
Good. All right, Brenda.
I hope y'all got your like editing pens out. I hope you got your red and pink pens or purple pens. I hope really genuinely that you are making some of these edits and crossing some things off of your resume in real time, because you may not remember everything that was said. So do your best to try to kind of track while we're talking, be looking at your own respective resumes and be like, okay, that got to go. Okay, got to update that. And so that's going to be great. One thing that I will just kind of further expand on that Donna mentioned was the email address. So y'all know me, I like to talk about discrimination. I think it's a very real thing. I know it exists in the world, even though it is very illegal. And so one of the things that we're doing to invite discrimination onto ourselves oftentimes is giving away our age. And so you're doing that a lot of the time in your email address. And so if your name, let's say, is Michael.Smith, you're doing Michael.Smith 1957 at AOL.com. And this is a problem, guys. You are giving away way too much information. I want people to focus on the value that you bring and not automatically disqualify you because they think you're too old. And so stop telling them how old you are. You're doing it in your education. You're saying, I got my college degree in 1982. Like, they are putting the pieces together and they are coming up with this number that they think might be your age, and they'll never get the chance to meet you, know how amazing you are, know what you can truly do for them, because they have already gotten so caught up in how old they think you are. Now, on the other kind of mechanical side, certainly number of pages, this is still controversial. I don't exactly know why, but just 1 to 2 pages. It's kind of that simple, unless you're like a medical doctor or something where you have certain exceptions. For the average general population, 1 to 2 pages. If you are a new grad, you probably don't have a whole lot of experience to account for. You'll probably have a 1-page resume. If you've worked in one job for the last 15 years, you might have a 1-page resume. But if you've had 6 different positions, then you might need 2. If you took a whole bunch of, you got publications, right? These things matter. If you volunteered in a community, you've won awards, you've done speaking, all of these wonderful things that you've done, you don't want to just kind of throw them away because you're sticking to some arbitrary 1-page rule. And so definitely 2 pages if it is merited. And if it is not necessary, 1 page is sufficient, and move on with your life. Don't get caught up with, oh, it has to be 1 page. Now, look, if a specific employer said, send your 1-page resume, then by all means follow instructions. But in all other circumstances, 1 to 2 pages is perfectly acceptable. Your font, I like the cleaner kind of sans serif fonts. Like Calibri is just my personal favorite in the moment until something else new comes along. I love it. It's clean, it's easy to read, and it's a relatively small font, so you can actually fit more onto the page, but not smaller than 10, not larger than 12, just as a general rule. What else we got? I think Lori talked about functional versus traditional, and font size pages. We're golden. So go forth and be amazing.
That's so good.
One thing about the fonts is back to the applicant tracking software. They don't like serif fonts, like the Times New Roman and whatever the other ones are that have the little feet on them. So she's right with the Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, anything that is sans serif.
Great. And I know I hear, or I see people in the chat asking about the recording. That I know this is a ton of information that you might want to go back and grab. So this recording will be on our website. Typically we get it up by this afternoon. And so by tomorrow it will be up, and everyone that registered for this event will get an email, and it'll have the direct link to this recording. So you can always go back and view. All right. And Brenda, you kind of mentioned this, my next question a little bit. You mentioned a little bit about ageism. We know that it's out there. We know it's real. We know it's illegal. But as you said, there are things we can do to overcome some of this and not be disqualified right up front. And so we want people to get in front of a hiring manager and, get those ideas out of their mind. So I want you guys to address that. What are some things you can do maybe with your resume? How far should you go back? What dates, that kind of stuff, and anything else you have as far as recommendations go to help us with that.
Well, you aren't going to put 35 years experience on the first line of your resume. 20 is about the biggest number I'll ever use.
15
if
for
you-
me.
Pardon me?
15 for me.
15?
Me too.
There
Mhm.
you go. Okay. That's of course a dead giveaway.
But
So
no,
it's
I
like
mean,
go ahead, Brenda.
she's absolutely right. Even when you have had 35 years of experience, saying 15 plus accounts for your 35. It accounts for 16, it accounts for 19, and you're 35. The problem is if you come right out the gate and say, I've got 35 years of experience, again, they're doing the math. I think this person is this old, and they are disqualifying you before you can ever have an opportunity. And I saw somebody in the chat that said they were semi-retired, or I know there are folks that are like retired military, and they'll say that on their resume, retired military. Stop.
Oh.
Don't do that. Don't use the R word. It is a bad, bad, bad word. And so we are not going to use that kind of a language, because what is the stereotype? What's the stigma? What is the imagery that somebody will put into their minds when they see the word retired? This person is laid up, watching soaps, eating bonbons on the beach somewhere. They're not ready to work. They haven't kept up with technology. They're not in their skills. They are out to pasture. This is the imagery that you're painting for them. So let's stop doing that. We do not have to go about it that way. So we can focus on the actual results, say 15 plus years. We don't have to go back. For me, again, there may be some variance, and that's okay. For me, I take the experience back about 15 years. Just about 15 years. So it just depends sometimes, right? 10 to 15, somewhere that's the sweet spot for me. But it doesn't need to go back further than that. And if you have relevant things that do go further back than that, then you can just say prior experience and add it in there without dates, but just provide a little bit of context that, hey, I've done this work before. I might not have done it recently, but I've done it before. I have the experience that you're looking for.
And also remember that sometimes we're dating ourselves by adding our dates of education.
Yeah.
I graduated from college in 1990. So there you go. I just told y'all how old I am. Really old, right? And so that does two things. It tells you my age, and it also makes someone look at my education and go, well, how is that relevant today? And so it dates my education. And if I just put my degree and my date of education, and I don't talk about all of the other things that I've taken since and the other training that I've participated in, people think that I haven't continued my education. So yes, I put my degree on my resume because it shows that I've completed my degree, but the date doesn't need to be there. So you're dating yourself with your email address, with by putting your year of birth and your email address, by going back too far on your resume, by putting that 30 plus years of experience. And, but I'm proud of that. And I appreciate that you're proud of it, but you've got to know that the pride that you feel in those years of experience is not nearly as important as avoiding the age discrimination, right?
Yeah.
And another way you can avoid that age discrimination is, again, we think about discrimination, it's all based in fear, right? And their fear is you don't have the energy levels, you don't have you're not open to change, you haven't kept current with technology. And you can address some of those in your resume by showing that you have stayed current with your training and education. But they really should have no idea of your age by looking at your resume, period.
That's
Yep.
right.
One more thing with is putting on technology that's very outdated. What some of the old Fortran and
DOS.
DOS, yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Let it go. All right, so one of the things you guys talked about at the beginning was accomplishments and experience. So can you guys talk, ladies, can you talk about why is that important and how do you incorporate it into your resume? See, Brenda, you want to start?
I kind of touched on it earlier, and I'll use the same example just because you've heard it before and it might actually set well with you this time. And so there is a difference between saying I was responsible for answering phones. And then to say, I actually answered 400 calls per day while documenting meticulous customer notes in the Salesforce CRM system and resolving customer issues, right? There is a very big difference in those two statements. And one tells me that you can multitask, that you can handle a high volume, a fast pace, that you understand the technology like Salesforce, the language like CRM, and it gives me a whole heck of a lot more insight into what you are capable of versus just you saying I was responsible for answering a darn phone. And so we are not going to settle for these kind of basic explanations of what we're doing. Think about what Lori said. This part of the process is not yet about you. This is about what you can do for them. Right now, you are simply a paper and a stack of papers. And if I don't see something that differentiates you from all the other people in this stack, you are going to feel like a victim of this black hole that you think exists, but it doesn't. It's just simply misinformed job seekers doing some stuff that, trying to take the easy way or doing the one size fits all resume. We're not customizing. We're not helping people understand, hey, I've done this major thing. I took this, I completed this project on time. And don't just say on time, on budget. Tell me how much time. Tell me how big was that budget? Was it a $1,000 budget? That's very, very different from an $11 million budget. Very, very different. And it helps to paint a picture of what kind of a caliber professional you are, right? Because there are, again, $500 project managers and there are $80 billion project managers. And I need to know which one you are so I can know which kind of monies to offer you. I'm not afraid to talk about money, and I hope that you aren't either. But that's what accomplishments, I think, at maybe the other ladies will break down some of the mechanics, but at the end of the day, the importance of articulating these accomplishments is going to be the difference between like a $60,000 job offer and a $90,000 job offer. And I don't know about you, but I want the 90 every single time.
That's right. All right, we have a couple hot topics we still have to get to. People have asked about gaps in employment. People have asked about applicant tracking software. So let's talk gaps first. So people stay at home. Moms and dads stay at home to raise their kids. They help with ailing family member. They got laid off and it took them 6 months to find a job. Whatever, there's tons of reasons for someone to have a gap in employment. Can you guys address how do you incorporate that into a resume? Do you incorporate that to a resume? And if so, how?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. It depends what you've been doing during that gap. If you did a lot of volunteer work or any volunteer, it wouldn't have to be a lot, any volunteer work, you can use that as a job. There's nothing that says that experience section has to be paid experience. So you can use that with the accomplishments and your contributions to the charity or organization that you volunteered with. If it was something like illness, sometimes just a quick line that explain, or sabbatical to do something, something about the illness, but just a quick line in between the jobs can suffice. They're going to interview you anyway. They're not hiring you off the resume. So it's not going to discount you as long as you had a good explanation for it. And to me, any company that would is not a company you want to work for anyway.
Gaps in your employment are not nearly as big a deal today as they were maybe 5 years ago, right? I think that everyone had some bumps along the road during, the last few years. And so if it's a, 3-month gap, 5-month gap, you don't really need to explain it. But if it's, 5 years, explain it. Like Donna said, with just a simple line, caregiver, you cared for ailing family member, ready to return to full-time work. Something like that is fine. That just shows I did this and now I'm finished with it. I'm ready to come back to the workforce. And so you don't have to get fancy and domestic engineer and, household CEO or anything of that nature. just one line explaining why you were there. And then, again, focus on what you did during that time, especially if you had some volunteer work and that was really relevant to what you want to do going forward. So Donna's absolutely right.
And I'll just say, even if it was you, if you were the sick one, caregiving for an ailing loved one, you are the loved one here. I'm being so for real. We have got to outsmart these systems, because a lot of people will hold that against you and think, oh, if you've had a chronic illness, it may reoccur and there could be an attendance issue. And so we got to be super careful there. But then on the other side, they've said, depends on what you've done. And I'll say, start today. If you're in the middle of a gap right now, you're actively in an employment gap, start today volunteering or doing something constructive, right? So don't just be like, oh, woe is me, I haven't done it. Oh, I guess I missed my window. Start today. Career Connectors need some volunteers. And especially if you're doing work that's relevant to their mission, if you're going into nonprofit work, if you're doing something that's kind of along the lines of what they need, plug in. If you're a writer, volunteer to write their blogs. Come on, there are so many opportunities that you can be doing that are strategic, that make a lot of sense. Everybody doesn't have to volunteer at the soup kitchen, nothing wrong with that. But if you are like a project manager, maybe work with Career Connectors to launch some of their expos and different things that they've got going on. This is a great opportunity. The time is now to get involved in something and start plugging the holes of your gaps.
That's so good. All right, you guys, let's talk about applicant tracking software. I said it right, Donna.
Yep.
Tracking software. So I'm going to throw this to you. It's coming your way. What is it? And how do we kind of get around it or through it? So we don't dump into the black hole of death, it's gone forever.
Well, there are over 200 different applicant tracking software systems. 95% of Fortune 500 companies have their own. And of course, then there's the ones that if you apply on LinkedIn or apply on Monster or apply on Career Builders, or am I outdated? Are they still out there, those job boards? I don't personally use them, thank heaven. But they look for keywords. That's your biggest thing. You're going to hear some things about formatting. Don't worry as much about formatting as making sure that the content is there. Read the job announcement. Use their language. Make sure it's integrated into your resume, not just a laundry list of keywords, but prove that you're familiar with it. And the length doesn't mean anything. To applicant tracking, there's no formatting in applicant tracking systems, although later people will want to see your resume. If you score high enough with the keywords, then people will see it. So you want it to look nice. But it's other than text boxes, headers and footers, and tables. Yes, those are the things that you want to avoid, because they just get eliminated. They're just going to be blank. Nothing in them is going to be read. So don't put any critical information in them. Doesn't mean you can't have them on your resume if there's nothing important.
Which is why we try to avoid templates, you guys, because a lot of templates have some of these elements built in, and they don't care that you're using kind of ATS and they don't understand some of those elements. And so you have to be the cautious job seeker and know to avoid some of these things. And that's really hard.
Columns, that's the other one. Avoid columns, because the applicant tracking reads left to right, and your words are all going to flow badly.
So I want to eliminate this idea that there is an evil set of robots out there trying to knock you out of the running for a job. Okay. Yes, there are computer systems, and the way it works is when you apply, they parse information out of your resume and put it into their system. So you need to have a simply formatted resume that, as Donna said, has no tables, no text box, no headers. But you need to make it easy for that system to read. And so, it's simply formatted. I think Donna said it earlier, like the content of your resume is the most important part. So, you'll see all these fancy formatted resumes that look like pictures and infographics, and you'll find those templates on Pinterest, and they look really pretty, but they're not really functional with that applicant tracking software. There are no robots out there trying to knock you out of the running, but they're sorting through and reading your resume and giving you a score, putting you in kind of a ranked order in terms of who's the most qualified based on the words in your resume. And then a human then goes to look at your resume in the order at which the computer sets it up. But I know recruiters from huge companies like Wells Fargo that tell me they look at every resume that comes in the door. And so, yes, there is a software that sorts you, but there are still humans in this process. So you have to appeal to that robot, if you will, by avoiding the things that we've talked about. But mostly you really need to think about the fact that there is a human looking for how are you going to add value to them? And by giving proof statements, by showcasing your accomplishments, by demonstrating your value. And that's really like, don't get so hung up on, oh, this software is going to knock me out of the running. Know how to navigate through it, like we've talked about, but just know that it's the content of your resume that's really the most important thing.
And that's a good argument for tweaking the resume a little bit every time you submit. One resume does not fit all the situations. Do not try to write a generic resume. Sure, it's a lot harder, but this is important. If you're trying to take the shortcuts, you probably won't be as successful as those who really put in the time and effort and push, huh, Brenda? And push.
Hallelujah.
Yes. And I know that, or there's some data around the more time you put into each resume, the higher chance that you're going to get that actual job. So the ROI, so to speak, in putting that time in a resume is very high. Instead of just taking that one resume and shooting it off to 20 jobs, stop. Which job do you want? Which job fits your skill set the best? And tailor one resume to one job instead of just throwing it out there to everybody. You guys, thank you so much. This is so good. Okay, we had a couple questions about how to get a resume done. And so somebody asked, how do I get guidance on my resume and not pay a fortune? And so obviously we provide these at no cost. There's a lot of people on the line today, but we will have breakouts where you can go and talk directly. But these ladies volunteer at all of our events. And so they kind of rotate. And so there's always resume writers in our breakout sessions. So you are always welcome to come, make edits to your resume, come and ask for guidance, and they are the best of the best. But I don't know if you saw this, Brenda. I just read in our chat, Deanna Howard, she said she hired you after a layoff. And she received a promotion to a director role in IT and doubled her salary.
Yay.
Doubled her salary. Congratulations, Deanna. That's awesome. But talk about that, you guys. The value of actually hiring. So what they're here to do today is free. What they're in the breakout rooms, totally free. They give so much. It's incredible. But they also do this for a living. So talk a little bit about, can I go get a template online, or should I hire somebody, or what does that look like?
Listen, so my heart is so full right now. Just hearing that. And then, last week I had another client that I had worked with who actually more than tripled his salary. And so here's the deal. we can try and penny pinch and look for the free resource, and you'll be in line, we'll kind of see what happens. And you can figure some of these things out. I tell folks all the time, if you got a couple of years to kind of master resume writing, you can figure it out. You can learn it on your own. You could do it by yourself. But if you're kind of in an urgent situation, you're trying to get to where you're going, you don't just want any job, you want the job, you're really ready to kind of take your career by the darn horns, you just can't be afraid to invest in the thing that's going to actually provide a significant return for you. If you are looking for a free resource, I recommend the Arizona at Work program. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free, but you got to do some things to get the free resources. You got to take their assessments and show up to their classes, and they're not just going to give that money away. But one of the biggest things that I would say is having a resume is great. Having a great resume is expected, but knowing what to do with your resume can make a whole world of difference. And so sometimes you don't just need a resume writer, you need a coach, you need somebody that will actually guide you through the process of networking with other people, of how to engage with your targeted corporations. And so don't be afraid. If you just don't want to spend money, go to Arizona at Work and figure it out. If you are like, I got the money, but I'm really just nervous, look at the fruit, my friends. Look at the fruit of these people like Ms. Howard, who are doubling salaries, tripling salaries. These people are winning very, very big. And it is time for all of us, and I'm talking to myself too, to just stop playing so small.
That's
Wow.
great. I know.
I'd like to add one more thing to the applicant tracking software that I missed before, is make sure that you're writing your resume in Microsoft Word. Not even if you're going to convert it to a PDF, it should be written in Word for applicant tracking software. Sometimes it cannot read things in Pages or Open Office. I don't know the technical part of that. Somebody else might know it better, but that is the current wisdom. Use Microsoft Word, and even submit it in Microsoft Word unless they specifically say you can use a PDF.
Awesome. All right, well, we're over time, you guys. I'm already getting texts and direct messages that this has been so helpful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For everyone on the line, you have the chance to talk to these ladies during the breakout room. Thank you, Amanda. You have been a rock star and answering our chat, and she's answering tons and tons of questions since we
Thank you, Amanda.
There's no way we could get through them all. Thank you so much for doing that. And all four ladies will be in the breakouts again. And any last parting words from you? How do they get in touch with you? Anything else you'd like to mention?
We'll put all our information in the chat, won't we?
And yes, and stay encouraged. This is hard. This is a hard moment in kind of history. So do not start to fall victim to depression and rejection and all of that. Like, learn from what we talked about today and ask questions. I'll put a link to, you can schedule a free consultation with me, but get actual guidance, actual qualified guidance to help you, because sometimes what you're struggling with for months and months and months, we can take one look at and be like, this is the problem, and we can make a change in a matter of moments. So let's get it.
Awesome. Brenda, what's the name of your book that I love?
I happen to have it here behind me. What a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
It is called Crush the Pink Slip, Get Back to Work in 60 Days. You can order it on Amazon, but it's a digest. It's a 60-day bite-sized guide to help you get back into the game for the kinds of work that you actually want to do, not settling for anything, but getting the job.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Round of applause. Woo-hoo! I'm going to drop your book link in the chat as well, so people have that direct Amazon link. It is worth it, and many people have read it and just follow the 60 days. It's pretty awesome. So thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Lori. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys. So a couple things as we transition right now. Yes, this recording is available. I know I've said it a couple times, but this will be available so you can go back. Hang on the line for the next 15 minutes, and then you'll be able to talk directly to our resume writers in the breakout rooms. And now we're going to move over to LinkedIn. So if you have not dropped your LinkedIn URL in the chat yet, please go ahead and do that, or go ahead and drop it in again. I'm going to drop in the instructions on the chat on how exactly to make it clickable so that people can connect with you. And I am loving connecting with so many of you through LinkedIn. So make sure you drop your LinkedIn URL so we can connect with each other. And then I would like to introduce you all to our next speaker. Mr. Ted Robeson has over 25 years in engineering management in the high-tech industry. And he worked at companies like AST Computer, Unisys, the National Security Agency, US Air Force, Department of Defense, L3 Communications, so many. And during the dot-com era, he owned an internet service provider company. But for the last 13 years, Ted has been coaching LinkedIn for us, Career Connectors, and career coaching and counseling ministries at Saddleback Church in California, as well as a series of LinkedIn classes at universities, colleges, companies, and recruiting firms. He brings a unique style of passion, humor, and anecdotal experiences to his presentation on this great online networking tool, LinkedIn. I saw a ton of questions about LinkedIn in the chat. Ted is going to take about the next 20 minutes to try to go through some of the content with you guys. He is phenomenal in what he does, and I would like to introduce the 5 best LinkedIn practices to stand out by Mr. Ted Robeson. Welcome, Ted.
Oh, thank you very much. It's so good to be here. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. Well, it's an honor for me to be here today and talk about my favorite subject. I've had the privilege, I've been doing this a while, I've had the privilege of helping many thousands of people all over the world gain employment and raise their brand on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is by far the best networking tool and job search tool in the world. With over 830 million people on LinkedIn, I think it makes it a great tool. And speaking of recruiters, with over 93% of the recruiters in the world using LinkedIn to source candidates, and I'm sure all our recruiters here use that, it just makes sense to have a great LinkedIn profile, whether you're have a job, whether you're in job search, or regrettably in the future, you're in job search. So normally I could talk 3 or 4 hours on this, as Jessica knows, right, Jessica? I can definitely, I don't even take a breath during that time. So, but today we're discussing some of the best LinkedIn practices to stand out. So let's get started. Next page, please. So stand out. These are the topics I'll cover. Do I think there's more topics on this? I think there's hundreds in my coaching help with people, but I think these are the probably most impactful for you. Your headshot is a must-have. Years ago, people go, no, I don't like it. I didn't like it because I didn't look that good. I'm not like Jessica or some of you other nice looking ladies that have a great picture, but I think it's a must have right now because recruiters, if you don't have a headshot, you need one. Your headline, we'll talk about that at length. It needs to be impactful. Your summary statement, what I call it, your time to shine. I think also connections. You need over 500. And if you don't have that, you need to keep growing that. And it allows you to break into target companies, which I'll mention in a while. Customize your URL. You need to do that. As Donna said, or as some of the other speakers said, I saw people logging in and they logged in with numbers. That is not right. And then keywords. I'm doing one more. I'm giving you a bonus here from over 5. And so keywords is important. So next screen, please. Okay, headshot. So I am using Jessica as my example. Her picture has all the right elements to it. Keep it natural, simple, natural light. The background, if you notice, is kind of a plain background, which is nice. It emphasizes her. And that's the best picture for LinkedIn photos. Please have it. You know, a lot of my clients have pictures or no picture at all when they first came in, and they have it of their family or their dog or their motorcycle of their car. Please, that's not what we want here. We want a picture of you, a nice headshot. And I know what you're thinking, Ted, that shows my age. Well, guess what? Guess who has to go to the interview? So that cat will be out of the bag. So a nice picture of you, I think, is okay. It's funny, I just helped an 85-year-old recently get a job. So age, you can still get jobs at 85 now. You edit out the imperfections of your picture. You look natural. If you wear glasses, you kind of watch to make sure they're not sparkling. And ditch that selfie, please. If you're just doing a quick, you got to watch your background. I know that at Career Connectors, we used to do free pictures and stuff. So if you happen to go to an event, Jessica usually has a photographer there, but please have a nice picture. Does it have to be a glamour shot? No, just a very nice picture is sufficient. Avoid blurriness and low quality. Keep your eyes open and lively. You know, talking about the picture, LinkedIn has just recently, a few years, gave a background image. And I do like that. I think this is appropriate. I'm given my background image here of teaching. This was at one of the colleges here in Arizona. And I was teaching LinkedIn at a night college. I looked at Jessica's background picture and it has her there in front of Career Connectors. So that was a good background also. But you know, the background picture shows your brand. It can show what you do. A lot of engineers on the phone call, medical, finance, banking, you can find good pictures that represent that industry and put that in your profile. And it shows that you care. You can look at all those different products, services that you do. You can put that in there. If you kind of don't, a lot of my clients also are designers, if you would, and they've designed their background picture. I have a lady that just created a great one for herself just recently. So it's outstanding. But if you're looking, you go, what background do I use? If you Google, go on the search of Google and look up LinkedIn background images, it'll show you a whole bunch of different images and different industries that make sense for you. So try that. Next slide, please. Okay, headline. Woo, your headline is really important. One of the reasons it's important is because LinkedIn shares this headline as a cookie. If you visit other people's, other members on LinkedIn profiles, they'll see what your headline is about you and that. So there's 220 characters or so that you can use. I say use them if you can. You can highlight your strongest qualifications if you want to. These are keywords searchable. And I know the ladies talked about keywords. Well, job titles are keywords. I like a job title in there. What I don't like is to see people say, I'm currently looking for a job. That's just not who you are. Who you are isn't looking for a job. It's what you do. And since a lot of keywords, you know, jobs can be different titles, to tell you the truth, at different companies. So maybe you can use a couple different titles. Please don't use 9 different titles. I had one client say, well, I'm a vice president of marketing. I can be a senior director. I can be a product manager. I can be this. if you use all those, it confuses people who look at that. So use a few titles that maybe make sense for you, and I'll explain that in a second. They are keyword searchable. So great headlines, I think, attract attention. You can talk about, identify yourself as what type of person you are, what specialties you use. You can talk industry in that. I like a tagline. You'll see my taglines as we get down later, but I've built great taglines for people. Highlight some of your achievements. If you've got an award or something for marketing or for service or financial or medical, this is a place to put it. So add some of those things to your headline that will further enhance your brand. And this is your brand. Again, we're talking about how people search for you and how you get into those search engines that will help you. Another thing that I'm big, highlight those achievements, obviously, but what your value is. And we can't talk about this enough. Brenda and Donna and Lori talked about value propositions, and that's what I'm all about in LinkedIn. It's the value you bring to that company. It's what differentiates you from the herd. And if you don't experience and skills, maybe that'll get you the interview, but value is what ultimately gets you the job. And so LinkedIn gives you opportunity, or maybe more opportunity, to list those values and how you react to those values and what things you do for that value. For example, another headline, I'll use mine: LinkedIn coach, keynote speaker, job search coach, instructor. So does those look like keywords to you? Yes. I like connections are good, but relationships are gold. I think that's what LinkedIn is all about. It's a networking tool to build connections, your first level connections. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think relationships are the things that will help you. And it's incumbent to you to make those connections, turn those into relationships. And then I'm dedicated to raising your brand and visibility. That's my passion. That's why I put it in here. Another example of someone using maybe multiple headlines is a graphics designer, graphics illustrator, or digital animator. All of these could be similar, akin to that job title. And I like what he said, let's make everything you do look great. I love that. And then, hey, portfolio and profile. So yeah, I have a well, if I can talk, I have a portfolio in my profile, so you can see that when you go there. Next page, please. Okay, summary. Your summary, again, I think is your time to shine. It allows you to have 2,000 characters. It gives you the opportunity to tell your story. And I don't like block text. If you see block text, it's hard to read that. Your summary, I think, again, is your spokesman for you and how you can help the company. And that's what's important. You create white space so it's easy to read. You tell your story, it's keyword searchable, and you talk about highlights, maybe some of your major accomplishments and what you've done in the past. I like who you are, what you do, and who you're helping. Who are you helping at the company, and why is it important that they pick you? Again, value propositions. Most of my clients that I talk to, for the many thousands, they don't know their values. They know their experience and their keywords, but they go, well, Ted, I don't have any values. Yes, you do. You need to sit down and figure out what differentiates me from the other people looking for this job. As I looked at the people signing in, there's financial people, medical people, IT, technology. What separates you from the other IT people? What makes you the better IT person and the value you bring that company? I've seen banking, business analysts, other jobs that are out there. What makes you, and like coaches or resume writers, what makes them, what makes Brenda a great resume writer? What does she do? What makes me a better coach? What do I do different than the other coaches? That's what I need to talk about, right? And that's what you need to talk about. And then personal branding. This is really, this summary section is your personal brand. It's the start of it. And it's what you're noted for. It's what companies look at to see what's good about you and how you can help them. And by the way, when you go to the interview, you need to talk about those values that you bring, not only just in LinkedIn or your resume, but you take that to the interview itself. Next page. Next page. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, I'd like to talk a little bit about your URL. I did see a few of the attendees sign in with a big number at the end of it. That's not good. What I like is, as you can see my URL, I like www.linkedin.com/in/Ted Robison. Yes, where can I put that? Certainly you want to put that on your resume, as Donna spoke about. You want to put that on your cover letter if you have one. You want to put that on your email so people can click on it. It gives a professional look. It identifies you very easily, and it looks good on resumes and emails. And it gives Google gives you a free listing when people search your name on Google. So if you searched Ted Robison on Google, I guarantee you I'm going to be on the first page, and my LinkedIn profile may be second or third or first. So it depends. So if you search yourself on Google and you have a good LinkedIn profile URL, you might be at the top of that with that. So that's important. Potential employees, notice those customized URLs. I've been to many companies and talked to their HR, and they do look at stuff like that. And it's not just a number. It shows that you're a newbie, not very well coordinated on LinkedIn. And again, we're talking about how you stand out, and having that URL has you stand out from the pack. Next page. Okay, I know Jessica wanted me to do 5, which I could do hundreds of standout things, but I think I've added a bonus one for you. And maybe Jessica didn't know I added this. I stuck this in. So, but one of the most important things I think on LinkedIn as your resume is keywords. Your LinkedIn resume is alive 7/24, so it's there all the time. So you want to be found, and that's what I love about this tool. Many of my clients have gotten jobs because they were found on LinkedIn, and that is so outstanding when people call me and say, "Hey, Ted, I was found on LinkedIn and I got a job." How cool is that? So LinkedIn is used by recruiters, obviously, hiring managers, search companies. I deal with all of them. Keywords are like job titles, your hard skills, your soft skills, your location. So if you're in New York and you're looking for a job, then you have New York as your home. A lot of people also put United States. Now we're doing a lot more hybrids, whether people stay at home and do work or go into the office. So a lot of that's happening now. Keywords are also found in your headline, your about section, your experience section, your skills section, and believe it or not, your recommendations. So all of those are where keywords are found. So keywords are so important for you to be found. Companies also run your LinkedIn profile through the ATS system, the applicant tracking system, similar to what the lady spoke about on your resume. So what happens, I think, is people will run that against the job requisition, against your LinkedIn profile, and give a score. And those scores, the higher you get, obviously, the more chances you have of maybe talking to a person. Now, I think Lori or somebody said that one company, I think it was Wells Fargo, they talk to everybody that turns in their resume. Well, that's not true to all companies. And the reason being is so many resumes get turned into companies with people not having the right skills or the experience. The same thing with LinkedIn. If you're applying for a job on LinkedIn and you pull up the job and then you look at the job requisition on the right, you want to look at that and then, oh my gosh, there's some skills out there that I have. I need to put that in my LinkedIn profile. So you might go to your skills section and add those keywords. And it's just not one keyword, it could be two. I had a person say, Ted, I'm inside, outside sales, so I'm just going to put sales as my keyword. Well, if a company's looking for inside, outside sales, you need to put that in those keywords. So that needs to match. And so you want to include specialties in your profile. And again, I think Brenda mentioned this. Brenda said, hey, if you know Spanish or some kind of other language, I think that's important to put in here because that could be a keyword that could help you, especially in a multicultural environment that we all live in now. So that's important. Now, I happen to, when I teach my clients on LinkedIn and use the keywords, I have them run JobScan, and that's a program out there. And there's pros and cons about JobScan, I understand, okay? And again, it's similar akin to the ATS system. It'll give you a score, and that score will give you a hint to how your keywords match that job. And so I usually have my clients, whether it's a resume or LinkedIn, is to do the job or do the transfer of those skills to their resume and then run JobScan, which would automatically check for you how you rate. And now you can look, oh, I missed some important keywords that are important to this job. So when you're applying for a job on LinkedIn, you need to match those keywords so you get higher in that category. So I think that's all I have. My next one is questions that maybe came in. I saw some questions myself. I don't know, am I running too late, Jessica? I tried to keep it.
Yeah, we're right on time. And you could respond to some questions in the chat if you see them.
I did, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I did see a few of the questions. One was, how do you keep your age down in LinkedIn? Well, first of all, I think Brenda or one of the other ladies spoke about maybe 15 years back. I use that same thing in LinkedIn. I don't like to go back further than 15 years. When my clients are starting to have experience back in the 1980s or 1990s, especially if they're engineering and things like that, I just don't think the technology back then mirrors what we're doing now in the cloud and other things that jobs are doing. So I think that's important. to not go back that far. Your education, LinkedIn used to require a date on that education. Now they don't. I've argued enough with LinkedIn, now it's Microsoft, to take those dates out. Now, the only other driving factor to age is your picture. Do not use, a picture when you're 20 years old and now you're going into the interview with you. Unfortunately, I can't change age. Do I think there's age discrimination out there? Of course I do. I'd be lying if there wasn't. Do I think if you're older, can you still get a job? Yes. I've helped many people in their 70s. One guy was 85 get a job. But a lot of people that you're interviewing with are probably 30 or 40 years old. So age could affect that. But again, your picture, I think it's important that you have a picture, and I can't help if it shows a little bit of your age. I can't think of I wrote down some of my other.
The only other thing, one of the other things we had come up is you had talked through how to change the LinkedIn URL, and Amanda had dropped in a really good link that specifically walks you through how to change the URL. And so it gets rid of the random numbers and letters. So thank you so much, Ted. You are such a great person of information around LinkedIn and so much more, just the whole career search. And so Ted will be in a room for you guys to talk to. We also have Drew Foster here today, and Drew, we knew we were going to have a fairly big event. So Drew will also be in a room to help with LinkedIn, and you can go talk to those guys. Drew has hired thousands of people at his position and with his company. And so he uses LinkedIn all the time. So he has a recruiter, hiring manager view. They are both going to be in the breakout sessions, and so you can meet with them. So Ted, thank you. Round of applause, virtual high five for Ted. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks.
All right, you guys hang with me just a few more minutes, and I am going to close it out so that you all can go into the networking sessions. First of all, if you have any feedback, we would love to have it. And so feel free to email us at contact@careerconnectors.org with any feedback. Also, you can touch base with us on social media. I am getting a ton of you connecting with me on LinkedIn and sending notes. So much great feedback already today for everyone that has spoken, for the content. And so thank you guys so much. People are telling me they're feeling more confident and how they're going to apply, and that they really have some hope out of today. So thank you guys so much for all your help. All right, so here are a couple more resources for you. First of all, we have an assessment. You may have taken before other assessments that are behavioral style assessments. You can click on careerconnectors.org/DISC, and that will give you a link to a free DISC assessment. Go ahead, fill your information out. It takes about 15 minutes, and that will have a report that comes back to you. And it'll talk about your work style, your communication style, the way you like to work. So it has some great information, and you can even pull some of those verbs and descriptors into your resume. And so that's a great tool. There's a link to the recordings. You all will also all get an email. Anyone who is registered today will get an email today that has the direct links, and one of the direct links will be this webinar. And so that will be up tomorrow or by tomorrow. I think that email goes out either today or in the morning. And so you'll get that. There are links to connect on social media. We always want to thank many of our partners. Here are some of them on the next slide, and they are just great advocates for the work that we do in the communities. We are based in Arizona, so a lot of our partnerships are local to Arizona, but we have decided that monthly we would at least do one program that would be able to serve anybody nationally or globally, and that's what this program is. And so we bring in the content, like you guys heard today, that is applicable and that you can utilize immediately in your career search, your transition. And so that is what today's program is about. And then we also have the coaching at the end. Okay, so we have some events coming up. we're on a grant in Arizona, and I know a lot of people are outside of Arizona, but 2 of these apply to Arizona only, and the other one would be for anyone that would like to attend. We have an in-person event for manufacturing. And so we have Boeing, Microchip, Empire Cat, a whole bunch of large companies. I think we have 22 that'll be in the room that are hiring now. And so come on out, not only direct manufacturing positions, so those will be there, from engineers to techs, but all of the professional services. So IT, finance, HR, they're hiring across the board. Students, professionals, executives, entry level, across the board. And so come on out. That event is on September 22nd at 3:30, and it is in person in Phoenix. Then on Tuesday, October 4th, even though this next one says Arizona, it is Arizona's fastest growing industries, which for us are finance, healthcare, manufacturing, construction, and finance and insurance. Those are 5 of our fastest growing industries. All of these companies that will be on the line, there will be 25 on the line, I think. They will be on the line, and we're first doing keynote speakers that are gonna talk about each industry, where the growth is happening, the kind of jobs that are out there. So we brought in experts for each of those industries, and then we're gonna have hiring companies that are gonna give a 3-minute TED talk on what their company is hiring and how to apply. But this particular event applies to anyone nationally, because a lot of these positions are remote positions. And so come on in, learn about these companies, and connect with them directly. So this is an opportunity virtually to meet 25 employers in one morning. So we're going to do the event, the keynotes, then we'll do the talks, and then we're going to go into breakout sessions where each employer will have their own breakout session, and you can go talk to them directly. And then Tuesday, October 18th, we are at another in-person event. We're so excited to be able to do some in-person stuff again. Don't worry, people that are virtual, we're not going away virtually, but we get to do some in-person stuff. And this is how we started 13 years ago, is all in person. And so this focus is going to be on transportation and warehouse industries. And so we have a whole bunch of, it'll again be about 20, 25 companies that are hiring in a room that you can actually talk to. And that will be on October 18th at a venue in Phoenix. And so azcareersnow.com is the program that we launched in partnership with the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. And we are on a grant with them. And that's where we're getting these how we're doing these hiring events. And so you can also, we do have a QR code if you want to scan the QR code, but all of this is accessible on our website at careerconnectors.org. You can see all of the events. Thank you to all of the volunteers, the experts that are here today. We are so grateful, so grateful for how you continue to serve the communities and the people that are going through career transition. Thank you, all of you, for being here today. If you are interested in volunteering, and I had actually a couple people reach out to me directly today, and I gave you the LinkedIn or the URL, but careerconnectors.org/volunteer. There's a couple things I know we're specifically looking for. Joey Richardson is our executive director and oversees all of our fundraising and partnerships. We're looking for some people that are research heavy, that would love to do some of the research we need behind the grants. We're looking for some people that are good writers and might be interested in helping us write some grants. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we would love to have help on. So if you're interested in volunteering, please send us your information through that link, and we would love to get in contact with you. All right, thank you. And we are a 501c3. So if you, when you do land, if you would love to give back to Career Connectors, of course, we would love that. And so it takes us about $42 per person that we serve to run these programs. And so you can catch that on our website. There's a donate button. It says Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is coming up, but there is a donate button right there. And so thank you so much for any support. We are so grateful. And I'm gonna toss it over to Bree Martinez. Bree is our event director, and she is going to talk you guys through the breakout process and how to directly connect. But I just want to say thank you for being here. Me and my team, we are praying for you guys that you land into the career of your dreams. Thank you again for being here.
All right, so if you want to join a breakout room, I'm going to open them in just a second. So you'll see that come up in your toolbar at the bottom. So you'll click on breakout rooms. You'll see a list of breakout rooms you can join. Whichever one you want to join, just move your mouse to the right of it, click join. Once you're in there, to get back to the main Zoom session, all you have to do is go to your toolbar again, click on breakout rooms, and join this session. The only thing is that you'll see on this next slide, there is career coaching. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it at the last minute, so we will not have a career coach today, but I just opened all the rooms. So you'll see those open up, and if anyone needs help getting into a room, you can put it in the chat and we can manually put you in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bree. So all of our coaches, go ahead and get in your rooms. If you are having any problems, then let us know, and we will make sure you get into your rooms. And then you guys can go ahead and join the rooms, and you can hop around. You can meet with one person, and then let's say you want to do resume, then you can go meet with a LinkedIn person, and you can kind of hop around to get the guidance you need today. We will be in this main room if you want to come back and you have any questions for us. But if you are having any problems joining a room, just drop it in the chat and let us know, and we will get you over to the room. Let's see. There, I got in. It looks like Amanda and Donna have space. Drew has some space.